The life of Hazrat Bilal began in Mecca, a bustling city known for its wealth, trade, and deep-seated practices of idol worship. Born to a slave family, Bilal's early years were marked by hardship and suffering. As a child of African descent, he faced the dual burdens of slavery and racial prejudice, both of which were ingrained in the societal norms of pre-Islamic Arabia. His existence was defined by the whims of his cruel master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, who owned him and treated him as little more than property. The world into which Hazrat Bilal was born was one of great inequality, where the powerful ruled with an iron fist, and the oppressed had no voice. Mecca, despite being the hub of trade and culture, was a city deeply entrenched in idol worship and social stratification. It was against this backdrop of deep societal corruption and spiritual void that Islam first appeared, offering a message of hope, equality, and the oneness of Allah. The call of truth as Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, began preaching the message of Tawhid, the oneness of Allah. Hazrat Bilal was one of the first to listen. In the midst of an oppressive society where the belief in idols was deeply entrenched, the message of Islam resonated with the oppressed and marginalized, particularly with Bilal. His heart, though bound by the chains of slavery, longed for freedom and truth. When Bilal embraced Islam, it was not just a spiritual awakening. It was an act of defiance against the societal norms that sought to define him by his race and status. His conversion came at a time when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as followers were few, and the consequences of embracing Islam were severe. Bilal understood the risks, but his heart was set on the truth that had been revealed. His acceptance of Islam would soon bring him to the brink of unimaginable suffering, yet his faith in Allah would prove to be his greatest strength. The torture and the test of faith after Bilal embraced Islam, the persecution began. His master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, seeing his slave's conversion as a personal insult and an affront to the established order, subjected him to brutal torture. Bilal was dragged out into the scorching Meccan desert, stripped of his dignity, and placed under the intense heat with heavy stones placed on his chest. His suffering was meant to force him to recant, to abandon the faith he had just embraced. But, despite the agony, Hazrat Bilal's spirit remained unbroken. He did not bow down to the torment, nor did he deny the oneness of Allah. His response was simple, yet profound. Ahad, Ahad, which translates to one, one. With every lash and every stone placed on his chest, Bilal repeated these words, a clear declaration of his unshakable faith in Allah. His resolve was a reflection of the core teachings of Islam, which placed the worship of one God above all. Else the physical pain was immense, but it could not touch the essence of his belief. His actions were a testament to the strength of his faith and his understanding of the eternal truth of Islam. He demonstrated that no matter how severe the trial, the soul's connection to Allah cannot be severed by worldly pain. In the face of unimaginable torture, Bilal's spirit grew only stronger. His patience and endurance became a symbol of Islamic resilience. His determination served as an inspiration for the early Muslim community, showing them that no sacrifice was too great in the pursuit of Allah's pleasure, liberation, and role. As the first Muezzin Abu Bakr, a close companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him, witnessed the brutality that Bilal faced and could not stand by in silence. Outraged by the injustice, Abu Bakr approached Umayyah ibn Khalaf and purchased Bilal's freedom. The price was high, but it was a small cost for the liberation of a soul so deeply devoted to Allah. When Bilal was freed, his life took a new turn. No longer bound by chains, Bilal became one of the most revered companions of Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. His faith, which had been tested in the harshest of ways, became a source of inspiration for the entire Muslim community. He was appointed as the first Muezzin, the one who would call the faithful to prayer. The role of this Muezzin is a position of great honor, as it involves calling the community to stand before Allah in prayer. Bilal was entrusted with this sacred responsibility, and his voice soon echoed across the streets of Medina, inviting Muslims to worship their Creator. His adhan, the call to prayer, became a symbol of the unity of the Muslim community and the message of Islam. Bilal's voice resonated with the spirit of equality and justice that was at the heart of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's teachings. The call to unity and brotherhood as the first Muezzin really was not just calling the faithful to prayer. He was also serving as a reminder of the deep bond that Islam created among its followers. The message of Islam rejected all forms of social stratification, and Bilal's rise from slavery to honor reflected the centrality of equality in the Islamic faith. Whether free or enslaved, rich or poor, black or white, all Muslims were equal in the eyes of Allah. Bilal became a symbol of this equality. His status as a former slave who became the first Muezzin demonstrated that Islam valued faith and devotion above all else. His life was a living testament to the message of justice and brotherhood that was preached by the Prophet, peace be upon him. He embodied the teachings of Imam Ali and other great figures in Islam, who emphasized that the worth of a person was not defined by their social status or race, but by their connection to Allah. The life of Hazrat Bilal is one of remarkable transformation. From a life of oppression and cruelty, he rose to become one of the closest companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the first Muezzin of Islam and a symbol of faith, equality, and perseverance. His journey reflects the core values of Islam: unwavering belief in one God, resilience in the face of adversity, and the commitment to justice for all people, regardless of their background. His story is a source of inspiration and a reminder that faith, when rooted in sincerity, can overcome any trial. Hazrat Bilal's role in the growth of Islam after gaining his freedom. Hazrat Bilal became a key figure in the early Muslim community, deeply connected to the mission of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His transformation from a marginalized slave to one of the most revered companions was not only a personal victory, but also a reflection of the transformative power Islam in a deeply divided society. Bilal's R.A. journey highlights the core principles of Islamic unity, sacrifice, and the pursuit of justice, all of which he embodied in his daily life. Bilal's courage in the early struggles of Islam. The early years of Islam were marked by hardship, as the Muslim community faced relentless opposition from the Quraysh and other forces in Mecca. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions were persecuted, ridiculed, and subjected to economic boycotts. They were denied basic rights. and freedom, yet the message of Islam continued to spread, appealing to those who were oppressed and seeking truth. Bilal's R.A. commitment to the faith was a beacon for others, demonstrating that no matter the adversity, a believer's relationship with Allah was an unbreakable dot in these difficult times. Hazrat Bilal's role was not just that of a companion. He was a source of strength and inspiration for the entire Muslim community. As Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, faced the challenges of leading the Muslims, Bilal stood beside him, unwavering in his loyalty and dedication. His contribution to the Islamic cause went beyond his role as the Muezzin. He was a fighter, a protector of the faith, and a symbol of resilience in the battles. Bilal's role as a warrior and a believer, Hazrat Bilal, R.A., was not only a spiritual figure, but also a warrior in the early battles of Islam, where his role became integral to the survival of the Muslim community. The Battle of Badr was a defining moment in the early history of Islam. Despite being outnumbered, the Muslim forces, led by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emerged victorious, solidifying Islam's place in the Arabian Peninsula. Bilal played a pivotal role in this battle, fighting alongside the Prophet, peace be upon him, and other companions. His bravery in the battlefield reflected the same courage he had shown when he endured torture in Mecca, the Battle of Uhud, though a temporary setback for the Muslims further tested the faith and commitment of Bilal and the entire Muslim community. Bilal R.A. fought valiantly, and though the Muslims faced challenges, Bilal's steadfastness remained a source of inspiration. The battle demonstrated that the path to victory was not always clear or easy, but the true believer remains committed to the cause of Islam, regardless of the outcome. Bilal's courage in the face of adversity exemplified the strength of the Muslim spirit. The lessons from these battles went beyond military strategy. They instilled in the Muslim community a sense of unity, loyalty, and trust in Allah's plan. Bilal embodied these values, using his physical and spiritual strength to uplift those around him. Migration to Medina. Bilal's role in establishing the Muslim state, the migration, or Hijra, to Medina was another defining chapter in Islamic history. Facing increasing persecution in Mecca, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers were instructed by Allah to migrate to Medina, where they could practice Islam freely. This journey was not just a physical relocation, but also a spiritual one, as the Muslims sought to establish a society based on justice, equality, and the worship of one God. Bilal was among those who made the journey to Medina, and upon arriving, he continued his role as the Muezzin, calling the believers to prayer 5 times a day. His voice, which had once called the people of Mecca to prayer, now called the people of Medina to unite in worship. The migration to Medina was the beginning of the establishment of the first Islamic state, where the principles of justice, equality, and brotherhood would guide the community. Bilal's contribution in this new society was profound, as he helped to create an environment where Islamic values could thrive. In Medina, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, laid the foundations of a just and inclusive state. This was a place where all Muslims, regardless of their social status, race, or background, were treated equally. The teachings of Imam Ali and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized the importance of unity, solidarity, and the pursuit of justice. Bilal was a living example of these values, showing that true leadership was not about wealth or status, but about faith and devotion to Allah. Bilal, and the call to prayer, one of Hazrat Bilal's most enduring contributions to the Muslim community, was his role as the first Muezzin. The call to prayer, or adhan, became his hallmark, a symbol of the unity and spirituality that Islam brought to the world. Bilal's voice was not just a call to prayer. It was a call to remember the oneness of Allah and to unite in worship. Every time he uttered the words, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, he reminded the believers of their purpose and their connection to Allah. The adhan became a symbol of the Islamic community, a call to come together, not just physically, but spiritually. Bilal's voice resonated through the streets of Medina, inviting the community to stand before their Creator. It was a reminder that Islam was a faith that sought to bring people together, to overcome divisions, and to create a society based on justice and compassion. Bilal, as a symbol of equality, one of the most significant aspects of Hazrat Bilal life, as his role as a symbol of Islamic equality. In a society that was deeply stratified along lines of race, wealth, and social status, Bilal's rise from slavery to a position of honor and respect was a powerful message that in the eyes of Allah, all believers were equal. Islam broke down the walls of social division, teaching that it was not a person's wealth, lineage, or status that mattered, but their faith and deeds. Bilal's story is a reflection of the Islamic principle that true nobility comes from devotion to Allah and service to others. His life was a living example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as teachings that no one was superior to another except by their taqwa, God consciousness. This message resonated deeply within the Muslim community, as Bilal became a role model for those who were oppressed or marginalized in society. In Islam, the worth of a person is not measured by their material possessions or social rank, but by their submission to Allah. Hazrat Bilal became the embodiment of this truth. From being a slave to becoming the first Muezzin, his life illustrated the fundamental message of Islamic equality, that all Muslims, regardless of their background, are equal in the eyes of Allah. The final years of Hazrat Bilal, R.A.'s life, were marked by a profound sense of duty and deep reflection. Having endured unimaginable hardship and embraced Islam with an unwavering spirit, Bilal, R.A.'s journey was not just one of personal transformation, but also of immense spiritual fulfillment. As a beloved companion of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his contributions to the early Muslim community were invaluable, and his role as the first Muezzin holds an eternal place in Islamic history. The passing of Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, and Bilal's grief, the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in 632 CE, was a monumental event for the Muslim community. For Hazrat Bilal, it marked the end of an era, and the grief he felt was palpable. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had been a guide, a mentor, and a companion like no other. His presence was the foundation of the Muslim community's strength, unity, and faith. Losing him was a source of immense sorrow for all, but for Bilal, R.A., who had been so intimately connected to the Prophet's life, It was a personal loss that he could not easily bear. Bilal's connection to the Prophet was deeply emotional. Having been one of the first to embrace Islam, and having served the Prophet, peace be upon him, throughout his life, Bilal R.A. was deeply affected by the passing of the Prophet, peace be upon him. His voice, which had once resonated with the call to prayer, now found itself empty of the same vigor as the pain of the loss consumed him. The adhan, which had been a constant in the Muslim community, now seemed incomplete without the presence of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Bilal's withdrawal from calling the 8th news of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as passing, had a profound effect on Bilal R.A. He could no longer bring himself to call the adhan, the act that had defined his life. His sorrow was so overwhelming that he could not bear to utter the words that had once so beautifully called the community to prayer. Bilal R.A. had been the first to answer the call of Islam, and had been at the forefront of the Prophet's peace be upon him mission. To him, the adhan was no longer just a ritual, but a constant reminder of the Prophet's presence and teachings. The companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, seeing Bilal's deep sorrow, encouraged him to continue calling the adhan. However, Bilal could not bring himself to do so. In a deeply moving gesture, Bilal decided to leave Medina. His departure was not just a physical one. It was a reflection of his emotional and spiritual state. He left the city of the Prophet, peace be upon him, to seek solace and to come to terms with his grief. Bilal's journey to Syria after leaving Medina, Hazrat Bilal R.A. traveled to Syria, where he would live out the remaining years of his life. In Syria, he found some peace and distance from the constant reminders of his deep grief. Although he withdrew from public life, his legacy remained alive, and his contribution to the early Muslim community was never forgotten. Even in Syria, Bilal remained dedicated to Islam and continued his acts of worship. He lived a simple and humble life, staying close to Allah and reflecting on the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His heart, while heavy with sorrow, remained steadfast in its love for Allah. Bilal had endured the trials of slavery, torture, and the loss of his beloved Prophet, yet his faith remained his guiding light, allowing him to endure and find peace in his later years. The return to Medina and the last, at Hanmana years after Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's death, Hazrat Bilal was called back to Medina. The companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, invited him to return to the city, where they would once again hear his voice calling the faithful to prayer. Bilal R.A., still carrying the weight of his grief, hesitated but eventually agreed. Upon his return, the companions eagerly gathered to hear his voice. Bilal climbed to the minaret and began to call the adhan. As his voice echoed through the streets of Medina, the community was overcome with emotion. Bilal's voice, which had once echoed with the words of the Prophet, peace be upon him, now brought tears to the eyes of those who had heard it for the first time. The memory of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was vivid in the hearts of the believers, and the call to prayer reminded them of the unity and love they had for the Prophet, peace be upon him. Bilal's return to the minaret of Medina was a moment of profound emotion for all present. The companions who had witnessed the early days of Islam, including the struggles, victories, and moments of joy, now stood together in remembrance of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They knew that while the Prophet's physical presence had left them, his teachings, his legacy, and his love for Allah would live on forever. Bilal's last moments and his legacy. The final years of Bilal's life were marked by reflection and spiritual peace. His connection to Allah and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never wavered. Despite the pain of his past, Bilal remained a figure of faith, dedication, and sacrifice. He had endured more than most could fathom, yet his devotion to Islam and Allah never faltered. When Hazrat Bilal passed away in Syria, he left behind a lasting legacy that would continue to inspire generations of Muslims. His life story is not only a testament to the strength of the human spirit, but also a reflection of the deep spiritual connection between a believer and their Creator. Bilal's courage, resilience, and unshakable faith in Allah served as an example for Muslims across the world, reminding them that true nobility lies in devotion to Allah and service to humanity. His legacy is still alive in the words of the Adhan that continue to echo through mosques across the world. When Muslims hear the call to prayer, they are reminded of the sacrifices of Hazrat Bilal, the first Muezzin, whose voice united the community in worship and love for Allah. Hazrat Bilal, eternal legacy. The life of Hazrat Bilal is one of profound transformation, sacrifice, and unwavering faith. From the depths of slavery to becoming one of the most revered companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, his story continues to serve as a source of inspiration for all Muslims. His contribution to Islam, particularly in his role as the first Muezzin, is one of the most significant in the early history of the faith. Bilal's life teaches us the power of faith in overcoming adversity, the importance of equality in the eyes of Allah, and the profound impact that true devotion to Islam can have on a person's soul and on society as a whole. His legacy lives on in the hearts of those who strive to live with the same commitment to Allah, the same dedication to justice, and the same love for the Prophet, peace be upon him, that he exemplified throughout his life. In every adhan that echoes through the world today, the spirit of Bilal lives on, calling the faithful to prayer, to unity, and to the remembrance of Allah, the One, the Eternal. Hazrat Bilal's story will continue to inspire and guide Muslims for generations to come as a shining example of faith, resilience, and the pursuit of righteousness in the service of Allah.